Radicals Live. And as I promised, we do at least have one guest for you tonight, and he's definitely a guy that goes, I would say, a little bit too much unnoticed right now, but he's definitely going to be one of the people that you see burst onto the big show at some point in time very soon. We have the Gladiator Challenge champion and IFBL champion, Sean Loeffler, the Destroyer. What are you doing tonight, man?
How you doing? I'm actually at the gym right now. Yeah, I'm sorry about Brandon. He promises he'll be on the show one of these times. I just texted him actually. He's not at the gym yet, so I was assuming I could just force him to be on it when I stood up and have the phone and say, hey, guess what we're doing right now? But he's not here yet. But I'm on with you and excited to talk for a little bit.
Awesome. Well, that was one of the main focuses we wanted to get. We mainly wanted to get you on, because it's one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is you're actually sponsored by Tussle Fight Gear, correct?
Yeah, we've got a newly formed relationship over the last couple of months. Actually started in November. I had a fight on HDNet. Everybody watches the HDNet channel, and we fought in the main event, me and this guy, Paul Karski, and I broke my arm September. We were both going for the same takedown, and my arm ended up breaking in half. My bone came out, and it was all gnarly. And in between after that fight, you know, some sponsors in the sport are funny, where they'll just fall off and be like, oh, you got your arm broken on TV. And I'm like, well, dude, it's kind of a fluke accident. And Slade and Tussle Fight Gear had no problem saying, dude, we'll be your clothing sponsor, and picked me right up and got behind me. And then I rematched that same guy in Kansas on pay-per-view 2 months later that I broke my arm against, and I dislocated his jaw and choked him out. And ever since, me and Tussle have been one and the same, and now they're going to be on my shorts fighting again Thursday, March 5th at Riot in the Hyatt at the Westlake, and that's a delayed pay-per-view event as well, too.
That is fantastic. It's one of those things, man. Tussle is just a really, really smart company in the strategies they use to pick the people they sponsor. They're actually our sponsor, so we're definitely repping the Tussle. Go Slade, woo, Tussle Fight Gear. But it's one of those things, man. A lot of people don't realize this because MMA is getting so big now that it's not always the guy that's in the spotlight that you want to jump on. It's the ones that are about to enter the spotlight, and definitely, Sean, you are one of those guys. I want to talk about your fight that you just had to win Gladiator Challenge title. You had already fought this guy and beat him, and then you come in and you told me the week before the fight, you know, I'm going to knock his ass out or I'm going to choke him out, one of the two. And when you called me after, what had you done, Sean?
Yeah, I fought the champion and fought for the middleweight championship, and I choked him out at 36 seconds in the first round after a big Ochimata knee tap takedown, dropped him on his head, punched him a couple of times, took his back, choked him out, and got the win. So I was pretty happy about that. In and out easy, you know?
Definitely. Anybody that wants to know, you can find this fight all over. I mean, you can go to YouTube and type in Sean Loeffler or Gladiator Challenge title fight, and you will find it. And it is poetry, and is what I like to call it. It's like calligraphy with arm chokes. It was insane.
It was cool because Ruben, the guy I fought, Ruben Tagle, he's a good guy. You know, I know him pretty well since we fought twice now. And the first time I fought him, it was to fight for the King of the Cage championship. And so he was 3-1 then, actually, but coming off of 3 wins in a row in King of the Cage. So we fought, and I got him in a quick submission and then got to fight for the King of the Cage championship. And so this time it was funny. He was just coming off of a 10-second knockout of John Loeffler. And everybody knows John Loeffler knows he's been in the UFC. He beat Frank Shamrock over in Hawaii. And so I was like, oh, shit, man, this guy's gotten a lot better. He just knocked me on 10 seconds, you know, even though he's 4-2. Like, he's only had 3 fights in the last couple of years. Now he's the champion. And so I was pretty happy to get in and get out with another quick submission, not get rocked at all.
Yeah, that was definitely a fight that you handled without opposition, I would say, or at least it seemed.
Luckily. Those are my favorite times.
You always got to respect the opponent, and that's one of the things that I like about you, Sean. You're very respectful with and/or are fighting. So now, what I want you to talk about is kind of like how you came up in it, because you have definitely fought in some of the promotions that a lot of hardcore MMA fans completely understand and know about, like King of the Cage, Gladiator Challenge. I mean, people like Quentin Rampage Jackson and Uriah Faber have come from that place.
Yeah, exactly.
Tell us about how you've evolved in with each fight and how it was to come up through there.
I mean, the way I kind of look at it is I think I love MMA, but I also love boxing. I love the sweet science of boxing. And one thing that you got to give boxers over MMA guys, regardless of everybody's going to get pissed when I say it, is they know business. They know how to make money in their sport. Because MMA is a bigger sport right now, but there's boxers main events that are making literally 17 to 25 million a fight. And MMA guys are making maybe one. You know what I mean? The biggest names in the sport making $2 million a fight if they negotiate the contract right. And so one thing that I've always kind of looked to model my career after were a lot of like the Mike Tyson guys, the Evander Holyfields, the Muhammad Ali type fighters where they were smart what they did. They didn't try and come up too fast and in 10 fights try and get in the biggest fight of their life. They brought themselves up to about 20, 30 fights and then looked for the bigger opportunities, and they were really like a seasoned fighter and were really ready. And so right now, Eddie, I think what I'm doing is I'm doing kind of that route. Is I've built myself up from all the way from high school doing amateur fights and obviously the wrestling and the Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu and boxing all the way now I'm 26. And I feel like you kind of said I've conquered, the King of the Cage and the Gladiator Challenge and got all these belts. And now I'm kind of ready to maybe 2009 break into the next step up, the biggest step, and take on some of those guys and see where I fare.
Definitely, and I mean it's the all-out goal. I mean, regardless of whether people say they don't care or not, anybody in the sport of MMA eventually, be it for a long period of time or even for a brief moment, everybody's eyes are fixated on the UFC octagon. The
funny thing is I think some guys, and I completely agree with you, I think some guys are so fixated on it that they'll jump at an opportunity too early when they're not ready. And then if you lose it, let's just be straightforward. Joe Silva's an awesome guy, so is Dana White. But if you lose in the UFC, you might get one more chance, maybe two if you're really a name before that. But you get one or two chances to prove yourself, and you're either in or you're out. And I don't want to make that opportunity premature and then, do something stupid, make an amateur mistake or a young mistake, and not be ready. I'd rather have 30 fights under my belt and know, okay, this is the best I can do,
And that's a smart way to look at it, because a lot of people get in there and they think, well, I'm going to win this fight, and then they lose, and then they get their second chance, and they're thinking, oh, this is my second chance, I'm going to dominate, and then they lose. And not only are they tarnished in the public eye, and people just think, oh, this guy's not shit. It doesn't matter if he has 40 victories. If you fuck up in the UFC, you're done. People think you're terrible. It'll actually fuck you up trying to get into other promotions.
Oh yeah, it'll cut your paydays and whatnot. I mean, you just went from being an up and coming rising star to a guy that had his chance and fucked it up. And the funny thing is like, MMA community, like you said, there's some educated MMA fans, but the mass people that spend the money on the pay-per-views and on the DVDs are just people that know the UFC or maybe Affliction and Pride, and they don't know what Dream is even anymore. They don't know any of this stuff. And like you said, if people go in there when they're really not ready or have a bad showing, people have no idea who you are and you ruin your career. Like, look at Daly went over there and to the UFC, and he was a superstar, and then he loses his UFC fight. Now he's, who is he now,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There have been so many. Matter of fact, the last guest we had on this show was Yves Edwards. And Yves Edwards, I mean, he was fantastic. Even in the beginning of his UFC career, he was going on streaks. He lost a few fights, and now where is he? He's struggling to get a job. That's exactly what he said when he was on our show. I said, what's next for Yves Edwards? He said, hopefully a job.
Yeah, and I feel for guys like that because he's one of the most talented fighters in the world, and because of maybe one or two bad showings or you just had a rough fight here, rough fight there, didn't get the opportunity or airtime, had a dark match in the UFC when you won, and then the one that was there, you lost. I mean, if you just get dealt a bad card in this sport, you can really be screwed for a little while, and especially when you're on top, like Yves Edwards was. When you're below that level, you can make your mistakes and then go up and be the next Anderson Silva, George St. Pierre. But until I think I'm ready to do that, I don't want to, that's a nightmare for me. And I have all the respect for Yves in the world. I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be saying I'm struggling for a job. I want to be the guy that's like, do I want to retire or do I not? It's my choice because I'm financially stable because I've been doing this for a while, and stayed at the top.